Picture this moment with me. You're sitting quietly in your favorite chair, perhaps with a cup of tea cooling beside you, when suddenly a memory surfaces, a memory of someone who wronged you deeply. Maybe it was a betrayal that shattered your trust, harsh words that left invisible scars, or an injustice that changed the trajectory of your life. Your heart quickens, your jaw tightens, and that familiar burning question rises within you. Will they ever face the consequences of what they did to me? If you've found yourself here listening to these words, you're not alone in this universal human experience. Today we're embarking on a profound journey through the ancient wisdom of Stoicism to explore something that has captivated human consciousness since the dawn of civilization, the concept of karma, cosmic justice, and how the universe seems to have its own way of balancing the scales. But here's what makes our exploration unique. We're not going to feed your desire for revenge or vindication. Instead, we're going to do something far more powerful. We're going to examine how the Stoic philosophers Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca, and others would interpret these signs of karmic justice, and more importantly, how recognizing these patterns can actually free you from the prison of resentment and lead you toward genuine inner peace. The Stoics understood something profound that many of us struggle to grasp. The universe operates according to its own logos, its own rational principle, and justice isn't always delivered in the package we expect or on the timeline we demand. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor who faced betrayals and challenges that would break most people, wrote in his private journal, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Think about that for a moment. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. This isn't passive acceptance of wrongdoing. It's an active choice to maintain your character, your virtue, your inner citadel intact, regardless of what others choose to do. It's understanding that while you cannot control the actions of others, you have absolute sovereignty over your own responses, your own character, and ultimately your own peace of mind. As we explore these 7 signs that karma, or what the Stoics might call the natural order of the universe, is dealing with those who have hurt you, remember this: we're not celebrating anyone's downfall. We're not reveling in schadenfreude, that guilty pleasure of witnessing another's misfortune. Instead, we're observing the natural patterns of cause and effect, action and consequence that govern human behavior and relationships. The ancient Stoics believed in a concept called sympathia, the mutual connection and interdependence of all things in the universe. Every action creates ripples, every choice has consequences, and every harm inflicted eventually returns to its source in one form or another, not through some mystical force seeking vengeance, but through the natural order of things, the way a stone thrown into a pond creates waves that eventually return to shore. Sign number 1. The isolation they created becomes their prison. Let me paint you a picture that might feel familiar. The person who hurt you, perhaps they spread lies about you, manipulated situations to their advantage, or betrayed your trust in ways that damaged your relationships with others. At first it might have seemed like they won, like they successfully orchestrated your downfall while emerging unscathed. But watch carefully, observe without attachment, and you'll often notice something profound beginning to unfold. But the very tactics they used against you, the lies, the manipulation, the betrayal, these become the architects of their own isolation. You see, when someone builds their success on deception, when they climb ladders by pushing others down, they're actually constructing an elaborate prison, bar by bar, lie by lie. And here's the Stoic wisdom: they don't realize they're both the architect and the prisoner until the walls are already built. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher who witnessed the corruption and cruelty of Nero's court, understood this principle intimately. He wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and seeks the old." What he meant was that truth has a permanence that deception can never achieve. People who hurt others through dishonesty might gain temporary advantages, but they've built their house on sand. Consider the colleague who sabotaged your promotion by taking credit for your work or spreading rumors about your competence. Initially, they might have received the recognition, the raise, the corner office, but watch what happens over time. The same behavior they used against you becomes their modus operandi. They continue taking credit, continue manipulating, continue deceiving, and slowly but surely their reputation precedes them. Other colleagues start to notice patterns. Conversations become guarded when they enter the room. Invitations to after-work gatherings mysteriously dry up. Important projects somehow bypass them. They might maintain their position, might even climb higher, but notice the quality of their relationships. Notice how they're surrounded by people but fundamentally alone, because trust, once revealed as a tool for manipulation, can never be genuinely rebuilt. The Stoics teach us to observe this not with satisfaction but with understanding. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become one of philosophy's great teachers, would remind us that these individuals have enslaved themselves to their own vices. They've chosen external gains over internal virtue, and in doing so they've created their own suffering. You might see them at social gatherings, surrounded by acquaintances but lacking true friends. They might post constantly on social media, seeking validation, seeking connection, but receiving only shallow engagement. They might jump from relationship to relationship, each one ending when their partner discovers the pattern of deception and manipulation. This isn't karma in the mystical sense, it's the natural consequence of choosing to be untrustworthy in a world that fundamentally operates on trust. Marcus Aurelius observed, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." Humans are social creatures, and those who violate the social contract, who hurt others for personal gain, eventually find themselves outside the very community they sought to dominate. They might maintain the appearance of success, but look closer, see the anxiety in their eyes at every social gathering, wondering who knows what about them, wondering when their past will catch up, wondering why they feel so alone despite being surrounded by people. The isolation isn't always obvious. It's not necessarily them sitting alone in a dark room. It's more subtle, more pervasive. It's the partner who stays but withdraws emotionally. It's the children who visit out of obligation rather than love. It's the colleagues who cooperate professionally but never personally. It's the fundamental human connections that give life meaning slowly withering away, leaving them successful perhaps in material terms but impoverished in every way that truly matters. Sign number 2. Their character flaws become magnified over time. There's a principle in Stoic philosophy that states that vice, unlike virtue, is inherently unstable. Virtue builds upon itself, creating a stronger and stronger foundation, while vice requires constant energy to maintain and inevitably collapses under its own weight. When someone has hurt you through their character flaws, their anger, their greed, their dishonesty, their cruelty, observe how these very flaws don't remain static. They grow, they metastasize, they become more pronounced, more destructive, more impossible to hide. Think about it this way. The person who betrayed your trust because of their greed doesn't suddenly become satisfied once they've gained what they wanted from you. Greed, by its very nature, is insatiable. The Roman Stoic Seneca, who was one of the wealthiest men in Rome, understood this paradox intimately. He wrote, "Every man is in bondage to fear who depends upon chances for his happiness." The person who hurt you for material gain has revealed that their happiness depends on external acquisition, and this dependency only grows stronger with each acquisition. Let me share an observation that might resonate with your experience. The person who hurt you through their anger, perhaps they lashed out at you, said things that cut deep, acted in rage that damaged your relationship or reputation. Watch how that anger doesn't dissipate after you're gone from their life. It finds new targets, it grows stronger. What started as occasional outbursts become frequent explosions. What began as anger directed at specific situations becomes a general disposition toward the world. The Stoics understood that our repeated actions become our character. Aristotle, who influenced Stoic thought, called this habituation. Every time someone chooses vice over virtue, they make it easier to choose vice again. Every lie makes the next lie easier. Every act of cruelty makes the heart a little harder. Every betrayal makes loyalty seem a little more foolish. You might observe this in various ways. The person who gossiped about you to destroy your reputation doesn't stop gossiping once you're out of the picture. They continue, and eventually they become known as the gossip, the one who can't be trusted with secrets, the one whose words are poison. Their social currency diminishes as people realize that anyone who will gossip to you will gossip about you. Or consider the manipulator who twisted situations to make you look bad while making themselves look good. This behavior pattern doesn't end with you. They continue manipulating, but each manipulation requires more effort, more complexity, more lies to maintain previous lies. Eventually, they're juggling so many false narratives that they can't keep them straight. They contradict themselves, they expose themselves. The mask slips, and once it does, it's almost impossible to put back on convincingly. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." Those who hurt others through their vices don't realize that they're dyeing their own souls with darkness. Each harmful action leaves a stain, and over time these stains become their defining features. The angry person becomes known for their temper, the dishonest person becomes known for their lies, the cruel person becomes known for their lack of empathy. What's particularly interesting from a Stoic perspective is how these magnified character flaws begin to interfere with every aspect of their lives. The person whose jealousy led them to sabotage your success finds that same jealousy poisoning their other relationships. They can't celebrate their partner's achievements. They feel threatened by their children's accomplishments. They alienate friends who dare to succeed. Their jealousy, which once might have been directed specifically at you, becomes a lens through which they view the entire world, and it colors everything with bitterness. The narcissist who hurt you because they couldn't see beyond their own needs finds that narcissism expanding. What might have started as self-centeredness in your relationship becomes an inability to maintain any meaningful relationships. They can't understand why people keep leaving, why relationships keep failing, why they're constantly disappointed by others who won't cater to their every need. They blame everyone else, never realizing that they're the common denominator in every failed relationship. Sign number 3. They lose the very things they valued most. One of the most profound observations in Stoic philosophy is that we often lose what we grasp too tightly. The person who hurt you likely did so because they were trying to gain or protect something they valued: status, money, a relationship, control, or simply their own ego. But here's the cosmic irony that the Stoics understood so well. The very act of harming others to gain or protect these things often leads to losing them entirely. Epictetus taught that we should focus only on what is within our control, our choices, our responses, our virtue, and accept what is outside our control with equanimity. Those who hurt others are often violating this fundamental principle. They're trying to control external things through harmful means, not realizing that this approach is inherently self-defeating. Let me illustrate this with examples you might recognize from your own observations. The person who lied and schemed to climb the corporate ladder, perhaps stepping on you in the process, might eventually reach a high position. But watch what happens. The skills that got them there, deception, manipulation, taking credit for others' work, these aren't the skills needed to actually succeed in that position. They might have climbed the ladder, but they can't actually do the job. Their incompetence becomes apparent. They make costly mistakes. They alienate their team. Eventually, they're either demoted, fired, or they resign in disgrace. Or consider the person who betrayed your friendship or romantic relationship for someone else, someone they thought was better, more exciting, more valuable. They might have gained that new relationship, but notice how they've also revealed their character to their new partner. The new partner now knows that this person is capable of betrayal, of discarding relationships when something seemingly better comes along. Trust, once revealed as conditional, can never be fully restored. The new relationship is built on a foundation of suspicion, and suspicion is like rust. It slowly but inevitably corrodes everything it touches. Seneca wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." Those who hurt others out of greed or desire reveal a fundamental poverty of spirit, and this poverty eventually manifests in their external world. They might accumulate wealth, but they lose richness of experience. They might gain possessions, but they lose possession of themselves. The parent who manipulated their children against the other parent to win in a divorce might succeed in turning the children against their ex-spouse initially, but children grow up, they develop their own judgment, they recognize manipulation in retrospect, and often they end up resenting most the parent who robbed them of an authentic relationship with their other parent. The very children they fought so hard to possess slip away, maintaining only obligatory contact, if any at all. The business owner who built their success by exploiting employees, by taking advantage of your trust and hard work without fair compensation or recognition, might accumulate wealth, but watch what happens to their business. High turnover becomes constant, reputation in the industry deteriorates, quality employees won't work for them, customers sense the negative energy and take their business elsewhere. The empire built on exploitation crumbles, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, but inevitably. There's a beautiful passage from Marcus Aurelius that captures this principle. Consider that everything is opinion, and opinion is in thy power. Take away then when thou choose thy opinion, and like a mariner who has rounded the headland, thou wilt find calm, everything stable, and a waveless bay. Those who hurt others are slaves to their opinions about what's valuable, what's worth pursuing, what's worth sacrificing their integrity for. And these opinions lead them to grasp at shadows while losing substance. The Stoics understood that the only thing truly valuable, truly worth pursuing, is virtue, wisdom, justice, courage, and temperance. Everything else is what they called preferred indifference, nice to have but not essential to a good life. Those who hurt others to gain these indifference often lose both the indifference and their virtue, leaving them with nothing of real value. Sign number 4. They attract what they project. The Stoics believed in the principle of sympathia, the cosmic sympathy that connects all things. In practical terms, this means that like attracts like, that the energy we put into the world tends to return to us, not through mystical means but through the natural dynamics of human psychology and social interaction. The person who hurt you has revealed their character, and that character acts like a beacon, attracting similar energies and repelling opposing ones. Consider this carefully. When someone shows themselves capable of betrayal, deception, or cruelty, they unconsciously signal to others what kind of person they are. And here's what happens. Trustworthy, kind, genuine people gradually distance themselves, while those who operate on similar frequencies draw closer. The person who hurt you through deception finds themselves surrounded by other deceptive people. The one who betrayed trust finds themselves in relationships with others who have no qualms about betrayal. This isn't mystical justice, it's practical psychology. Good people, people of virtue and character, recognize red flags. They see the warning signs and choose to invest their time and energy elsewhere. Meanwhile, those who share similar vices recognize a kindred spirit, someone who won't judge them because they operate on the same moral level. Seneca observed this phenomenon in the corrupt courts of Rome. He wrote, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you. Welcome those whom you are capable of improving. The process is a mutual one. People learn as they teach." The person who hurt you has chosen their associates through their actions, and those associates reflect and amplify their own negative qualities. Watch how this plays out in their life. The manipulator finds themselves in relationships with other manipulators, each trying to use the other, each suspicious of the other's motives, each ready to abandon ship at the first sign of trouble. There's no peace in such relationships, no genuine connection, no safe harbor. It's exhausting to constantly guard against the very behaviors you yourself exhibit. The person who gained their position through backstabbing and office politics finds themselves surrounded by others who rose through similar means. Their workplace becomes a battlefield where everyone is watching their back, where alliances are temporary and purely transactional, where today's ally is tomorrow's enemy. They can never relax, never trust, never feel secure because they know that others are playing the same game they played. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. He wrote, "The universe's change, our life is what our thoughts make it." Those who hurt others have created a universe of suspicion and defensiveness through their thoughts and actions. They've announced to the world what game they're playing, and they attract others playing the same game. But it's a game with no winners, only temporary advantages that shift like sand. The gossip who spread rumors about you finds themselves in circles where gossip is currency, but this means they're also constantly being gossiped about. The information they share is used against them. The secrets they tell become weapons in others' hands. They live in a world where nothing is private, where every word is potential ammunition, where every friendship is conditional on having useful information to share. Sign number 5. Success feels hollow, and happiness remains elusive. Perhaps one of the most profound forms of justice the universe delivers is the emptiness that accompanies ill-gotten gains. The Stoics understood that genuine happiness, what they called eudaimonia or human flourishing, cannot be achieved through vice. It can only be achieved through virtue, through living in accordance with our nature as rational social beings. Those who hurt others to achieve their goals might reach those goals, but they find that the victory tastes like ash. Epictetus, who understood suffering and injustice intimately through his years as a slave, taught that happiness comes from desiring what we have, not from having what we desire. Those who hurt you to get what they desired discover a cruel truth: the achievement doesn't satisfy. The promotion obtained through sabotage doesn't bring the satisfaction they expected. The relationship won through deception doesn't provide the connection they craved. The money gained through exploitation doesn't buy the peace they sought. This is because, as the Stoics understood, our conscience is always with us. We might fool others, but we can never truly fool ourselves. The person who hurt you knows in their quiet moments, in the darkness before dawn, what they did. They know how they achieved what they have, and this knowledge poisons the achievement. Every compliment feels hollow because they know it's based on a lie. Every success feels fragile because they know it's built on a foundation of sand. Seneca wrote extensively about this phenomenon. Despite his vast wealth, he understood that every guilty person is his own hangman. The person who hurt you carries their guilt everywhere, even if they don't acknowledge it publicly, even if they rationalize it away during the day. In the quiet moments, in the spaces between distractions, the guilt surfaces. And guilt is a heavy burden that makes every success feel like failure. Watch for the signs of this hollow success. The person who seemed to gain everything from hurting you might post constantly on social media, seeking validation, seeking to convince others and themselves that they're happy. They might jump from achievement to achievement, never satisfied, always needing the next thing to fill the void. They might surround themselves with noise and activity, anything to avoid the silence where their conscience speaks. They might achieve their professional goals, but find no satisfaction in the work. They might accumulate wealth, but feel perpetually poor. They might be in the relationship they schemed to obtain, but feel lonelier than ever. This is because, as Marcus Aurelius understood, very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. Those who hurt others have corrupted their way of thinking, and no external achievement can compensate for this internal corruption. The Stoics teach us that happiness comes from living according to virtue, from knowing that we've acted with integrity, wisdom, justice, and courage. Those who achieve their goals through vice might have the external markers of success, but they lack the internal peace that comes from virtue. They're like someone dying of thirst who drinks salt water. The more they drink, the thirstier they become. Sign number 6. The past haunts them in unexpected ways. Time, the Stoics understood, reveals all truths. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Time is a sort of river of passing events, and strong is its current. No sooner is a thing brought to sight than it is swept by and another takes its place." But here's what those who hurt others don't realize. While time moves forward, the past has a way of resurfacing, often when least expected and most inconvenient. The person who hurt you might have thought they left that action in the past, filed away, forgotten. But actions have echoes, and these echoes reverberate through time in unexpected ways. The Stoics called this the principle of cause and effect, understanding that every action sets in motion a chain of consequences that can take years, even decades, to fully manifest. Consider how this plays out in practical terms. The person who betrayed your trust might encounter someone years later who knows about that betrayal. Perhaps it's in a job interview, a potential business partnership, or a new relationship. Suddenly their past action becomes present reality. The reputation they thought they'd left behind follows them like a shadow. In our interconnected world, the past is never as distant as we might hope, or perhaps the haunting is more personal. They have children who grow up and face similar situations. They watch their child being bullied, betrayed, or hurt in the same way they hurt you, and suddenly they understand the pain they caused. The empathy they lacked when they hurt you floods in when they see their loved ones suffering similarly. The past becomes a mirror, reflecting their actions back at them through the experiences of those they care about. Seneca understood this principle deeply. He wrote, "The willing destiny guides them, the unwilling destiny drags them." Those who hurt others often find themselves dragged by destiny to confront the consequences of their actions, whether they're willing or not. The universe has a way of creating situations that force us to face what we've done, to understand the impact of our choices. Sometimes the past haunts them through their own psychology. The human mind has a remarkable ability to suppress uncomfortable memories, but suppression isn't elimination. The memory of hurting you lurks in their subconscious, affecting their decisions, their relationships, their sense of self. They might not consciously think about what they did to you, but it influences them nonetheless. They become defensive in situations that remind them of their betrayal. They overreact to accusations because they know they're guilty of what they're being accused of, even if not in the present situation. The Stoics teach us that we cannot escape ourselves. Wherever we go, we take ourselves with us, including all our past actions and their psychological residue. The person who hurt you might change jobs, cities, even countries, but they can't outrun their own character. They can't escape the person they revealed themselves to be when they chose to harm you. Sign number 7. They face the ultimate judge themselves. The final and perhaps most profound sign that karma is dealing with those who hurt you is the inescapable confrontation with their own conscience. The Stoics understood that the harshest judge we ever face is ourselves, in those quiet moments when all external distractions fade away and we're left alone with who we truly are. Epictetus taught that we all have an inner divine spark, a rational faculty that knows right from wrong. This inner judge cannot be bribed, cannot be fooled, cannot be silenced forever. The person who hurt you might have rationalized their actions, might have convinced others that they were justified, might even have succeeded in suppressing their guilt for a time. But the inner judge remains, patient and persistent. As people age, as they approach the end of their lives, this inner reckoning becomes more intense. The distractions that once kept the inner judge at bay, career ambitions, social activities, the pursuit of pleasure, these lose their power. In the quiet of advancing years, in the stillness of sleepless nights, the voice of conscience grows louder. They review their lives, and the harm they caused you becomes part of a pattern they can no longer deny or rationalize away. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his private journal, showed us what this inner dialogue looks like. He constantly examined his own actions, his own motives, his own character. But imagine this same self-examination from someone who has lived a life of harming others. The exercise becomes torture. Every self-reflection brings pain. Every moment of introspection reveals another failure of character. The Stoics believe that virtue is its own reward and vice is its own punishment. The person who hurt you doesn't need external punishment to suffer. Their own character has become their prison. They've created a self that they must live with every moment of every day. A self they know has caused harm, a self they know has chosen vice over virtue. This self-judgment manifests in various ways. Some people become increasingly bitter and angry as they age, not really at the world but at themselves, projecting outward the contempt they feel inward. Others become desperate for redemption, engaging in grand gestures of charity or kindness, trying to balance the scales they know are weighted against them. Still others sink into depression or anxiety, the weight of their past actions crushing their spirit. The tragedy from a Stoic perspective is that redemption was always possible through genuine change, through choosing virtue, through making amends where possible and living better going forward. But this requires acknowledging the harm they caused, and for many, this acknowledgement is too painful to bear. So they remain trapped, neither able to forget their past nor willing to genuinely confront and transform it. The Stoic response: rising above the cycle. Now, having explored these 7 signs, we arrive at the most important question. How should you, as someone aspiring to Stoic wisdom, respond to this knowledge? The answer might surprise you, and it's here that Stoicism offers its most profound and transformative insights. First, understand that observing these signs should not bring you joy or satisfaction. Schadenfreude, the pleasure derived from another's misfortune, is a vice that diminishes your own character. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, the best way to avenge yourself is to not be like that. When you take pleasure in another's suffering, even if they caused you suffering first, you become more like them and less like the person you aspire to be. Instead, let these observations bring you understanding and ultimately peace. Understanding that justice exists in the natural order of things, that actions have consequences, that virtue and vice carry their own rewards and punishments, frees you from the burden of being the enforcer of justice. You don't need to seek revenge because the universe has its own way of balancing the scales. You don't need to hold on to anger because karma or natural consequence is already at work. Epictetus teaches us to focus on what is within our control. The person who hurt you and what happens to them is outside your control. But your response, your character, your choice to grow from the experience rather than be diminished by it, this is entirely within your control. Every moment you spend thinking about their karma is a moment not spent on your own development, your own virtue, your own flourishing. Consider this profound truth. The person who hurt you gave you an opportunity, though they didn't intend to. They gave you the opportunity to practice forgiveness, to develop resilience, to deepen your understanding of human nature, to strengthen your commitment to virtue. In a strange way, they've been your teacher, showing you through negative example how not to live, what not to value, who not to become. Seneca wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and seeks the old truths." The old truth here is that we cannot control others, we can only control ourselves. We cannot ensure that those who hurt us face consequences, we can only ensure that we don't become like them. We cannot change the past, we can only choose our present response. The Stoic path forward is clear. Focus on your own virtue, your own character, your own choices. Let those who hurt you deal with the consequences of their actions, and they will, as we've seen. Your job is not to watch and wait for their downfall, but to rise, to grow, to become the person you're capable of becoming despite, or perhaps because of, the hurt you've experienced. This doesn't mean you become a doormat or that you don't protect yourself from future harm. Stoicism is not about passive acceptance of injustice. It's about responding to injustice with wisdom rather than emotion, with strategic action rather than vengeful reaction. Set boundaries, protect yourself, learn from the experience, but don't let the hurt define you or consume you. The path of the philosophical warrior. The Stoics often use the metaphor of the philosophical warrior, someone who faces life's battles with courage but without hatred, who fights when necessary but without becoming consumed by the fight. As someone who has been hurt, you are in a battle, but it's not the battle you might think. It's not a battle against the person who hurt you. It's a battle for your own soul, your own character, your own peace. Every day you choose not to become bitter is a victory. Every moment you choose virtue over vice, despite having been wronged, is a triumph. Every time you help someone else, despite having been hurt, you prove that their actions didn't break you, didn't corrupt you, didn't drag you down to their level. Marcus Aurelius, who faced betrayals and disappointments that would crush most people, maintained his philosophical composure through a simple practice. Each morning he would remind himself that he would encounter people who would lie, cheat, betray, and disappoint. But rather than becoming cynical, he chose to see these people as ignorant of the good, as slaves to their vices, as worthy of pity rather than hatred. This is the ultimate Stoic response to being hurt: pity rather than hatred, understanding rather than revenge, growth rather than bitterness. When you reach this level of philosophical maturity, you've won a victory greater than any revenge could provide. You've maintained your character in the face of assault. You've chosen virtue despite temptation to vice. You've proven that your principles are stronger than your pain. The cosmic perspective, understanding the greater order, the Stoics believed in viewing events from what they called the cosmic perspective, stepping back and seeing our individual experiences as part of a vast interconnected whole. From this perspective, the hurt you experienced and the karma affecting those who hurt you are all part of a greater pattern, a universal dance of cause and effect, action and consequence. This doesn't minimize your pain or excuse their actions. Rather, it helps you understand that what happened to you is part of the human experience, part of the learning and growth that characterizes our existence. The person who hurt you is playing out their own tragedy, trapped in their own vices, creating their own suffering. You, meanwhile, have the opportunity to play a different role, the role of someone who transforms suffering into wisdom, hurt into strength, betrayal into a deeper understanding of trust. Seneca reminds us that difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. The hurt you experienced, as painful as it was, has given you strength you wouldn't have otherwise developed. It's taught you lessons you couldn't have learned any other way. It's shown you who you truly are when tested, and if you've chosen virtue despite the temptation to vice, it's proven your character in a way that easy times never could. From the cosmic perspective, both you and the person who hurt you are part of a grand narrative of human growth and learning. They've chosen a path that leads to suffering, their own suffering ultimately. You have the opportunity to choose a path that leads to wisdom, peace, and genuine flourishing. In the grand scheme of things, who has truly won and who has truly lost? Practical exercises for transcending hurt. As we near the conclusion of our exploration, let's turn from theory to practice. The Stoics were not merely theoretical philosophers, they were practical practitioners who developed specific exercises to cultivate virtue and maintain peace of mind. Here are exercises specifically designed to help you transcend the hurt you've experienced and find peace regardless of whether karma has visibly dealt with those who wronged you. First, practice the view from above meditation that Marcus Aurelius favored. Close your eyes and imagine yourself rising above your current situation, above your city, your country, your continent, above the earth itself. From this cosmic vantage point, observe your life and the life of the person who hurt you. See how small and temporary your individual dramas appear from this perspective. This isn't to minimize your experience, but to contextualize it within the vast sweep of existence. Second, engage in what Epictetus called the discipline of desire. Each morning, remind yourself that your happiness doesn't depend on what happens to those who hurt you. Your well-being isn't contingent on their suffering or success. Practice wanting only what is within your control, your own virtue, your own choices, your own responses. When you find yourself wondering about their karma, gently redirect your attention to your own character development. Third, practice premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. This isn't pessimism but preparation. Imagine encountering the person who hurt you in various scenarios. See yourself responding with dignity, composure, and virtue regardless of their attitude or actions. By mentally rehearsing these encounters, you prepare yourself to maintain your philosophical stance even in challenging situations. Fourth, engage in regular self-examination, what the Stoics called reviewing the day. Each evening, review your thoughts and actions related to the hurt you experienced. Did you dwell on revenge fantasies? Did you check their social media hoping to see signs of their downfall? Without harsh self-judgment, simply observe these patterns and resolve to do better tomorrow. This gentle self-awareness gradually weakens the hold that hurt has over you. Finally, practice what we might call virtuous living as the best revenge. Live so well, so virtuously, so fully that the hurt becomes irrelevant to your story. Build meaningful relationships based on trust and mutual respect. Pursue work that aligns with your values. Contribute to your community. Create beauty, spread kindness. Embody the virtues you wish to see in the world. This isn't about showing them what they missed. It's about showing yourself what you're capable of despite what you've endured. The paradox of letting go. There's a beautiful paradox in Stoicism regarding justice and letting go. The more you release your need to see karma affect those who hurt you, the more clearly you actually see it happening. When you're desperately watching for signs of their downfall, you're too emotionally involved to see clearly. But when you truly let go, when you focus on your own path, you develop the philosophical detachment to observe the natural consequences of their actions without emotional investment. This paradox extends even further. The more you let go of your hurt, the more it might actually affect the person who hurt you. When they see you thriving despite what they did, when they observe your philosophical composure and continued virtue, it serves as a mirror reflecting their own character deficiencies. Your flourishing becomes a form of justice that no revenge could equal. Not because it hurts them, but because it demonstrates the ultimate futility of their harmful actions. Marcus Aurelius understood this paradox when he wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." By refusing to be corrupted by their corruption, by maintaining your virtue despite their vice, you achieve a victory that transcends any conventional understanding of winning or losing. You prove that their actions, however harmful, couldn't touch the core of who you are. The ultimate teaching. Amor, Fati. As we approach our conclusion, we must address the ultimate Stoic teaching regarding difficult experiences, Amor Fati, the love of fate. This doesn't mean loving the hurt itself or being grateful for betrayal. Rather, it means embracing everything that has happened to you as necessary for your development, as part of the path that has led you to who you are today. The hurt you experienced, the person who caused it, the journey of healing, the observation of karma, all of these are threads in the tapestry of your life. Remove any thread and the entire pattern changes. The person you are today, reading these words, seeking wisdom, pursuing virtue, is partly shaped by that experience of being hurt. In a strange way, the person who wronged you has contributed to your philosophical development. This is not forgiveness in the conventional sense. You're not saying what they did was okay or that you would choose it again. Rather, you're acknowledging that since it happened and cannot be changed, you choose to transform it into something valuable. Wisdom, strength, compassion for others who have been hurt, and a deeper commitment to virtue. Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by the Stoics, expressed this idea powerfully: that which does not kill us makes us stronger. But the Stoics would add an important caveat: that which does not kill us makes us stronger only if we choose to learn from it, only if we transform poison into medicine, only if we use our hurt as fuel for our philosophical fire. Conclusion. The path forward. As we reach the end of our exploration, let's return to where we began, with you, sitting quietly, perhaps still holding that cup of tea, but now with a different perspective on the hurt you've experienced and the karma affecting those who caused it. We've seen how the universe has its own way of dealing with those who hurt others through the isolation they create, the magnification of their character flaws, the loss of what they value most, the attraction of similar negative energies, the hollowness of their successes, the haunting of their past, and ultimately, the inescapable judgment of their own conscience. These aren't mystical punishments, but natural consequences, the logical outcomes of choosing vice over virtue. But more importantly, we've discovered that watching for these signs, waiting for karma to act, hoping for their downfall, this is not the path to peace. The Stoic path forward is both simpler and more challenging. Focus on your own virtue, your own character, your own flourishing. Let the universe handle the justice while you handle your own development. Remember that you have a choice that the person who hurt you apparently lacks, the choice to respond to hurt with wisdom rather than more hurt, to answer vice with virtue, to transform negative experiences into philosophical growth. This choice, exercised daily, moment by moment, is what separates you from them, what ensures that their actions, however harmful, ultimately failed to corrupt your character. The ancient Stoics faced betrayals, exile, torture, and death with philosophical composure. They didn't do this because they were superhuman, but because they understood fundamental truths about the nature of existence, the importance of virtue, and the ultimate powerlessness of external events to touch our inner citadel, our capacity to choose our response. You stand in this same tradition now. You've been hurt, perhaps deeply, but you retain the power to choose your response. You can choose bitterness or wisdom, revenge or growth, watching their karma or building your virtue. The choice you make determines not just your future, but the meaning of your past. If you choose virtue, then the hurt becomes a teacher. If you choose vice, then their harm succeeds in corrupting you. As Marcus Aurelius wrote in the quiet hours of the night, surrounded by people who would betray him, facing challenges that would break most leaders, confine yourself to the present. The past where you were hurt is gone. The future where karma might visibly affect them is uncertain. But the present, this moment, right now, this is where your power lies. This is where you choose who to be, how to respond, what path to walk. The person who hurt you has their own journey, their own karma, their own consequences to face. That's their story, not yours. Your story is about resilience, wisdom, virtue, and the ultimate triumph of choosing to remain good in a world that sometimes rewards bad. Your story is about proving that hurt doesn't have to create more hurt, that the cycle can stop with you, that one person choosing virtue can create ripples of positive change that extend far beyond any single act of harm. So yes, karma is dealing with those who hurt you. The universe has its own way of balancing the scales. But your focus shouldn't be on watching those scales. Your focus should be on becoming the person you're capable of becoming, on living a life of virtue that serves as its own reward, on finding peace not in their punishment but in your own philosophical progress. The Stoics teach us that the only true harm is the harm we do to our own character. The person who hurt you harmed themselves far more than they harmed you, because they corrupted their own character while yours remains intact, or even stronger for having been tested. In the end, this is the ultimate justice, the final karma they have to live with who they've become, while you get to live with who you've chosen to be. As you go forward from this moment, carry with you the wisdom of the Stoics that virtue is its own reward, that vice is its own punishment, that the universe has its own way of dealing with those who cause harm, and that your only job, your only power, is to choose virtue regardless of what others choose. In making this choice consistently and courageously, you don't just transcend the hurt you've experienced, you transform it into wisdom that lights the path for others who have been hurt and are seeking their own way forward. The ancient Stoics believed that we are all part of a cosmic city, a universal community of rational beings. When you choose virtue despite being hurt, you strengthen this community. When you refuse to perpetuate cycles of harm, you contribute to the collective good. When you transform your hurt into wisdom and share that wisdom with others, you become part of the solution to the very problem that once caused you pain. This is the ultimate response to being hurt, not waiting for karma to punish those who wronged you, but becoming karma yourself, not in the sense of dealing out punishment, but in the sense of demonstrating through your own life that actions have consequences, that virtue leads to flourishing, that we can choose to be better than what was done to us. The journey from hurt to wisdom, from betrayal to understanding, from pain to peace, this is the hero's journey of our time. It's not fought with swords on battlefields, but with choices in quiet moments. It's not won through defeating enemies, but through refusing to become one. It's not achieved through watching others fall, but through rising ourselves, again and again, no matter how many times we've been knocked down. And so, as you finish this contemplation and return to your daily life, remember that you carry within you the same strength that allowed Marcus Aurelius to rule with justice despite betrayal, that enabled Epictetus to find freedom despite slavery, that empowered Seneca to face death with dignity. This strength isn't superhuman, it's deeply human, the most human thing of all. The ability to choose virtue in the face of vice, to choose love in the face of hate, to choose wisdom in the face of ignorance. The person who hurt you gave you an unintended gift, the opportunity to prove your character, to demonstrate your principles, to embody the very virtues they lack. In accepting this gift and using it wisely, you transform what was meant for harm into something beneficial, what was intended to diminish you into something that enlarges you. This is the final irony, the ultimate karma. In trying to hurt you, they've potentially created a stronger, wiser, more virtuous version of you. Whether this potential becomes reality depends not on them, not on karma, not on justice being served, but on you and the choices you make from this moment forward. Choose wisely, choose virtuously. Choose to be the person the Stoics would admire, not because you'll be rewarded, but because virtue is its own reward. Not because those who hurt you will be punished, but because your flourishing is the best response to their failure. Not because the universe owes you justice, but because you owe yourself the dignity of living according to your highest principles. The Stoics await you on this path, not as distant historical figures, but as companions in the timeless struggle to live well despite life's challenges. Their wisdom, tested in the crucibles of their own suffering, lights the way forward. All you have to do is take the first step, then another, always forward, always upward, always toward virtue. The person who hurt you has already chosen their path. Now it's time to choose yours. Choose the path of the Stoics, the path of virtue, the path that transforms hurt into wisdom and wisdom into peace. On this path, karma isn't something you wait for, it's something you transcend. Justice isn't something you demand, it's something you embody. Peace isn't something you find when they suffer, it's something you create through your own virtue. This is the way of the Stoics, this is the path of wisdom. This is your invitation to rise above, to transcend the hurt and to become the person you were always meant to be, not despite what happened to you, but because of how you chose to respond to it. The universe is watching, not to judge, but to witness your choice. History is waiting, not to record their punishment, but to remember your virtue. Your future self is hoping, not for their downfall, but for your rise. The choice is yours. The moment is now. The path is clear. Walk it with the courage of a Stoic, the wisdom of a philosopher, and the heart of someone who has transformed hurt into understanding, pain into purpose, and betrayal into an unshakable commitment to virtue. This is not the end of your story with the person who hurt you. This is the beginning of your story without them, a story where their actions become increasingly irrelevant as your virtue becomes increasingly radiant. A story where karma isn't the protagonist you are. A story where justice isn't the goal wisdom is. A story where the hurt doesn't define you, your response to it does. Write that story well, live it with intention, make it a testament to the power of choosing virtue in a world that sometimes rewards vice. Make it proof that one person armed with Stoic wisdom and committed to virtue can transform any experience, no matter how painful, into an opportunity for growth and ultimately for peace. The Stoics are watching, not from some mystical realm, but from the pages of history, cheering you on, reminding you that you have within you everything you need to not just survive what happened, but to thrive because of how you choose to respond to it. The person who hurt you has played their part in your story. Now it's time for you to play yours. Play it with virtue, play it with wisdom, play it with the unshakable conviction that living well is indeed the best revenge, not because it hurts them, but because it heals you. This is your invitation to transcend, to transform, to triumph, not over them, but over the temptation to become like them. Accept this invitation and step into the life of virtue, wisdom, and peace that awaits you on the other side of hurt. The Stoics have shown you the way. Now it's time to walk it.